Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Tennessee set to take on South Alabama this Saturday night inside of Neyland Stadium. An opportunity to get bowl eligible. If we go back to the offseason and think about it, if we knew we had an opportunity to get bowl eligible, an opportunity to win 7 games in year one of the Josh Heupel era, I think we all would have been satisfied with that, especially when this comes out this week, SEC Power Ranking Strength of Schedule. We see Tennessee right up there at the top. Kudos to Josh Heupel. He has done a great job rebuilding this program in year one. Still got a long way to go, but it's not just Josh Heupel I want to talk about today. No, I want to talk about Tim Banks, who has earned a nomination for the Broyles Award, which goes out to the top assistant coach in all of college football. We'll take a look at that. But as always, do me a favor, go ahead and smash that thumbs up just below the video. Also, if you are new to the Talkin VAWLS Network, you're wondering what this is. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We don't pretend to be something we are not. We are fans just like you. So if you enjoy the content, go ahead and subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. You won't miss out when we go live or when we drop new content. We will be live tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Going to talk a little bit about that Georgia game, look ahead to South Alabama and Vanderbilt, and just talk about this season, just an overall recap and where Tennessee is at, where Josh Heupel is at in this rebuild. Also, we'll be live Saturday night immediately following the football game, but also Dauber and the Indy Kid got you covered over with the Tennessee basketball team. They'll be going live after that on Saturday as well. But let's jump right into this article over at 24/7 Sports. Tim Banks earns Broyles Award nod for remarkable job with Vols defense, written by Patrick Brown. The article here says, though the past 3 weeks have been a bit of a struggle, Tennessee's defense has exceeded, albeit modest, expectations this season by multiple metrics, tangible and otherwise. And the job he's done with the Vols has earned defensive coordinator Tim Banks a nomination for the Broyles Award, given annually to the top assistant coach in college football. It says, despite losing several starters to the transfers in the offseason and facing some of the best offenses in the country in the first 10 games, Tennessee's defense has improved in several statistical categories from 2020. Banks was a bit of an unknown when Tennessee coach Josh Heupel hired him from Penn State, but the early returns have been encouraging. I agree 100% with that. Go back to when Tim Banks was hired. A lot of people said, who? Who is Tim Banks? They went into the old Google machine, started doing their research. You know, the fact that he was such an unknown when it comes to calling his own plays, being a co-defensive coordinator, and you just didn't know what you were going to get. And Tim Banks has been a huge addition to this coaching staff. And I know sometimes when you look at, stats and numbers, and we'll get into that, some of that's in the article here, maybe it doesn't make sense. It's easy for other fan bases to come onto this channel, run their mouth, talk trash, talk about how many points were scored. Sometimes you got to use the eye test. We know that this Tennessee defense is going to give up more points based strictly on the speed of play and the up-tempo offense that Josh Heupel wants to run. It's what makes it difficult for Josh Heupel to go out and get a defensive coordinator. It was one of the big question marks. Who wants to come here and take on this job? You know, how many times this year against Alabama, Ole Miss, Kentucky, this defense was on the field for 100 plays. What defensive coordinator wants to sign up for that? Well, Tim Banks signed up for the job. Now, the article goes on to say Tennessee ranks second in the SEC for tackles for loss and are in the top half of the league in sacks with 26 and yards per play allowed, 5.41, despite losing 2 of its top 3 tacklers and top 3 TFL producers and top 2 pass rushers, plus a safety now starting for Oklahoma to the NCAA transfer portal and facing 4 opponents ranked in the top 15 nationally in scoring and 4 teams in the top 10 of the FBS in total offense. That's ridiculous. And it goes back to the strength of schedule. And that's why I'm excited about next year. I want Hendon Hooker to come back. I want to see what this team does next year because the schedule sets up much more nicely next season. But the big things for me, tackles for loss, sacks, yards per play, those are huge statistical categories. And especially, again, go back to the offseason. Go back to our expectations, what we thought this defense was going to do. We thought they were going to struggle on the defensive line, but here they are. And, kudos to Rodney Garner and what he's been able to do with that defensive line. And it excites me. I'm excited about Tennessee football because it feels like for the first time in a long time, we've got coaches that teach and develop talent. Now they got to go out and recruit. Got to recruit. Article goes on to say Banks is one of the 59 assistant coaches nominated for the Broyles Award, and the list includes 8 coaches from the SEC, 5 of them defensive coordinators. So it runs down the list there. Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, and South Carolina's defensive coordinators also nominated for the award. Here's a quote from Rodney Garner. It says, I think Coach Banks has done a remarkable job. He's a great leader. I think he's very smart. He's flexible. Obviously, he tries to cater what we're doing to what our talent level is and what we're capable of doing, and he's open to suggestions. I think he's a really good leader. The kids believe in him. The staff believes in him, and he's a great guy to work with, just like this entire staff. I think that's the one thing that Coach Hype's done. He's put together a group of remarkable men that right now get along well, and they work well together, good chemistry. Man, what a great quote. That is something that this football program was lacking under Jeremy Pruitt. Leadership and chemistry. And Josh Heupel in year 1 has done a good job putting that together. Now, can he keep this staff together? Because that's the problem. When you start to have a little bit of success, people are going to start coming for your coaches, and that's a good problem to have at a successful program. Look at Alabama. Look at Alabama and how their coordinators scattered all over the SEC, all over the country. That's the problem that you want to have. Just like talking about Hendon Hooker, yesterday's video, whether or not he's going to go to the NFL draft. That's a good problem to have. The article here says Tennessee's defense has faded some the past few weeks, allowing 135 points the past 3 games to Georgia, Kentucky, and Alabama after allowing 160 in its first 7 games. The Vols ranked just 12th in SEC in scoring defense and 11th in total defense, but those numbers should trend back in the right direction with a couple of low-scoring opponents on Tennessee's remaining schedule. Those numbers don't come close to telling the entire story of Tennessee's defense. That goes back to what I said earlier. The eye test. Sometimes you use the eye test. That's why stats are important. Sometimes stats can tell a story, but sometimes they don't tell the full story. The eye test is more important. You got to look at the circumstances, the reality of the situation, not just numbers. Says the defense played well enough against Pitt and Ole Miss to give the Vols a chance to win those close games and kept Tennessee in the game at Alabama before running out of gas in the fourth quarter. Against Georgia, Tennessee's defense forced 3 3-and-outs in the first half and allowed just 3 points on the Bulldogs' first 2 possessions of the second half before fading. And again, that goes back to depth. We've talked about it over and over and over. Depth, it eventually catches up with you. Says the second half at Florida was a struggle, as was the entire Kentucky game, but the defense made the game-sealing stand late in the win against the Wildcats. Again, the eye test. Here's a quote from Tim Banks. Really starts with the kids. It's obviously a tremendous honor, but at the end of the day, it's because of the way the kids are performing, how they're working, being resilient despite some of the outcomes. So it's exciting for them, and obviously the defensive staff and how hard those guys have worked all year. Obviously, I'm nominated, but at the end of the day, it's because of the kids, because of the players and the team and our staff. But it's great. What another great quote. Him and Rodney Garner both just good men, humble men. The difference between Josh Heupel and Jeremy Pruitt. Go back to year 1, Jeremy Pruitt. These guys aren't getting it done. We'll just recruit guys that can. Some of the media tried to spin that on Josh Heupel again here recently after the Georgia game. Josh Heupel's not having it. Josh Heupel says he's going to go to work, and he will take those guys in his locker room out on that field and compete every single Saturday. Talked about loving the effort, loving the fight, loving the commitment to the process. He didn't quit on him. He didn't say, I'll go recruit 25 guys that can win. We finally have good coaches and good leadership. Says Banks admitted after Tuesday's practice he's not a big stat guy. There are several of those that validate his recognition for the Broyles Award. Tennessee's 76 tackles for loss, racked up by 26 different players, are a big spike from 2020 where they only had 55. And Banks' unit has had 4 games with double-digit tackles for loss. In SEC games, the defense has produced 8 takeaways and 18 sacks. Vols ranked 6th in the SEC in yards per play. Their 5.41 average, an improvement from 5.83 last season, and have allowed just 44 first-quarter points this season. That's funny. comparing yards per play against a defensive guru, Jeremy Pruitt. Another quote from Banks: obviously, the expectation is to play well, to play hard, be assignment sound, and we've answered that question. Those guys play extremely hard. We've gotten better as the year has went on in terms of our assignments. After that, we just go play football. To me, if you're going to play hard, you're doing right things, I think everything else will fall in line, and so far those guys are playing extremely hard, and again, we're playing smarter. So again, Tim Banks, nominated for the Broyles Award, which goes out to the best assistant in all of college football. Man, just so proud of this football team. I am. After the Georgia game, a lot of people were down on this football program because they were starting to buy into the hype. They were starting to believe, starting to expect this football team to beat the number one team in the country. And that's all fine and good. As long as we remember where we came from and meet this team where they're at. Super proud of these guys. Chance to get bowl eligible on Saturday. Again, a reminder, we will be live immediately following the game and also tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Tune in for Talkin VAWLS Live. If you have not done so yet, smash that thumbs up on the way out the door. It helps the channel. Still trying to get to that 10,000 subscribers. Share out the link. Blast it on social media. Tell somebody about the Talkin VAWLS Network. Let's help us get up to 10,000. We appreciate you guys for all the support. Hit that comment section. Let me know, what do you think of this defense? Have they done more than you expected? Less than you expected? How proud are you of where this football team is at? Hit that comment section. Let me know. That is going to wrap it up for this one. This is the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. Go Big Orange.
The songs how like me.